I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. On behalf of the trustees, I would like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School Board. This is a business meeting of the board held in public. We appreciate your attendance and request your respectful attention. We welcome your comments during the matters from the floor section of the agenda. If you signed up to address a specific agenda item, you will be called at that time. Finally, I would like to remind you that it is the mission of Northeast to challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. The time is 5:33. Next item.
2, public hearing to discuss 2012-2013 budget and proposed tax rate. A, presentation.
And I believe that is Mr. Villarreal.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. Tonight we bring you the last, before we adopt the budget. I have Brian Moy here, our Senior Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, to talk about and just summarize what we've discussed in the previous 3 budget presentations. Brian?
Thank you. Yes, he's still on the cliff. He's, I can't tell if he's going, still can't tell if he's going up or going down, but he's still on the cliff. Thank you. As Dan said, this is really just a summary of everything that's been presented since the April meeting. I'm sorry, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. It just seems like I'm always up here, so it's just, I don't do that.
We know the feeling.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is just really a summary of the meeting since April 30th. I am going to pretty much flash through these rather quickly. Please stop me if there's a section that you want to address. But again, this is, for the most part, this is not information that hasn't been presented before. Okay, starting with the general fund. We're going to show a decline in revenue for next year of about $8.1 million. That's about a 1.7% decline in revenue, dropping to a total of just under $476 million. And you can see on a percentage basis and in terms of whole dollars, you can see that obviously the biggest reduction is on the state side. Our budget for general fund and on the debt service fund makes the assumption that property values are expected to remain flat. We have seen no indication on the preliminary estimates from Bexar County Appraisal District that is not going to be the case, but we'll know for sure on July 25th when they give their certified value. Obviously, our M&O tax rate will remain the same at $1.04. The state revenue portion is going down by $10 million. That's $10 million compared to this year, 11-12, but that's actually $42 million less than the funding formulas were designed for prior to 2011 changes. And the state made a change to TRS on the biennium for 11-12, 12-13, but only for the first year of the biennium. So the amount that we record for TRS on behalf will be rising both on the revenue side and the expenditure side. If you categorize the state functions, the actual item in your agenda packet breaks down the general fund budget for each individual state function. These are grouped by their categories. You can see that, as always, we're spending a good 66% within the areas categorized as instruction. And as always, we are a people business with 85 to 86% of our expenditures in salaries and benefits. And the numbers being shown for 11-12 is the numbers that we're going to present in the next meeting, the other special meeting number 2 for the final adopted budget for 11-12. So if you choose not to approve that, then this is wrong. All right. If you see our major changes for this year, about $22.5 million, I'm going to go over briefly. some detail on the Education Jobs Fund reclassification for $12.2 million, the pay raise, 7.1, and what cost reductions were made to offset that pay raise, about 6.1. Everything else relative to the size of our entire budget is pretty minor and things that we have expected. We're hoping that fuel won't come in 700,000 higher, but we're putting it out there just in case. In terms of the Stabilization Education Jobs Fund, so the Stabilization Fund is that ARA money, and it was mainly for 9-10 and 10-11, but there was a small piece that hung over into our fiscal 11-12 because the Stabilization Fund actually ended September 30. So there was a small piece of salaries that were there. Those people who were employed there, we put a lot of people reclassified their payroll to the Education Jobs Fund for 1 year, and then their June through August paychecks, which is actually their work through May, so it's a fiscal 12 expense, is in the general fund. Well, for next year, there is no SFSF, there is no Edu Jobs, and we are not eliminating those positions, so it is all general fund. So the net increase to general is $12 million. The compensation package that you approved earlier this month is summarized here, just over $7 million, with obviously the vast majority of it going to the people on the teacher pay scale, or that's mainly teachers and librarians, 4.8 of the 7. And cost reductions. These are mainly in terms of FTEs reduced. This is not people being fired. This is simply eliminating positions which are currently vacant. And again, it's not even all the positions that are currently vacant. Approximately 59 teaching positions. That is, most of that is through tightening up some of the ratios at our elementary schools, squeezing them a little bit closer to 22-1 exactly than they were this year. And there's an offsetting change to paraprofessionals related to that. We're eliminating 14 campus custodial positions. Those people will not be losing their jobs. We're just going to move 14 custodians over to the new schools, well, when the new schools open. And central office non-staffing, or sorry, central office non-campus positions is about 25 FTEs worth $1 million. So to offset the $7 million pay raise, we've got a little over $6 million in cost reductions identified. And again, this is a minimum, as I stated, I believe it was the last meeting, is there's a lot more vacancies that we did not eliminate, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be filling them anytime soon. So we'll be able to realize some savings on those over and above the 6.1 million. So in total, the final budget for this year versus the increase for next year, you can see that according to this budget, we are going to start to dip into the fund balance, which we have been diligently building up since 2009. But again, we've known that's been our plan. We also know that not every dollar of this budget is going to be spent. $17.2 million is not how much is going to come out of fund balance, but it's what our budget as of the beginning of the year states. We are going to be diligent in not spending as much of that money as possible. And it's a little bit of a difference showing that our expenditures per student are showing that they're actually going up about $260 a kid. That's pretty sizable. But there is no apples to apples comparison anymore, thanks to the legislature. First, in 2009, they took the Stabilization Fund. They supplanted money, meaning they just took it and made it their own, the same as every other piece of funding, but then they made us take it out of the general fund. So for 2 years, $16 million a year was gone out of the general fund. Well, in 2011-12, that came back, a big chunk of that. But then we got the Edu Jobs Fund, and so that took money out of general and moved it out. Then they took things that used to be out and moved them into general fund, like the high school allotment. Then they decided to kill the technology allotment. Well, the high school allotment stayed as a program. The state just said, now this is part of general fund. It used to be its own fund. that killed the technology allotment program, period. We chose to maintain the services that we were providing under that allotment, and now we're doing it with general fund.
Brian, real quick before you continue on, could you just remind me how many months that 88 million works out to in the fund balance?
That is, as in basic, about 2.2.
Okay, thank you.
And again, so it's only going to be higher than that, I expect, as of June
Right.
30 when we finalize
Worst
the year.
case scenario.
Worst case scenario, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Okay, so what I've done, again, they released the Edgy Jobs. So what I've done is I came up with what if everything were combined. This is my best guess at saying, all right, let's take all these things that have been moved out and in and out and in and combine them, and let's try and do an apples-to-apples comparison of our operating expenditures. And you can see that over 5 years, our revenue on a per-student basis has dropped over about 7.5%, and our cost per student, our spending per student has gone down about 6%. And unfortunately, Texas Consumer Price Index over the same period has gone up about 10.3%. So our real purchasing power is much less than the 7.5% drop. Any questions before I move on to school nutrition? Yes, ma'am.
Just real quickly, the
This one or above it?
that capital, that percentage increase, now could you go to the following slide? Just tell me here what is other than maybe,
It's the QSCAP transfer.
USCB? So
It is
that
the
accounts for all
QSCB
that?
transfer. What happened was, beginning in 11-12, we were going to start to put aside 1.7 million a year. And when our auditors were reviewing some of our investment transactions for 10-11, they said, okay, well, you bought X, Y, and Z before the end of the fiscal year, so you really should count that transfer in 10-11. And we said, well, that's too early. We weren't going to start putting away 17 payments to the sinking fund until 11-12. So instead of 1.7, we did 1.4 last year, 300,000 this year, to where now we're back on track to where as of June 30, 12, we've deposited 1.7 million. Next year, we're going back to doing 1.7. So the difference between 11-12's 300,000 and next year's 1.7 is 1.4 million. That is the most dramatic increase in that capital and other.
okay, and just the one question, I didn't understand your point about if the formula funding point, 46 million versus 10 million, you have that as a talking point, as a bullet? Explain that to me, 42 million. The third, please.
If the legislature had not cut education by $4 billion and kept the same funding formulas in place for 11-12 and 12-13 that they
Right.
had in place in 2009, our state revenue number would be $42 million higher than what I'm projecting.
42 million higher.
Yes.
Thank
So we're not losing the money, we're just not getting
it.
the money.
I had to think about that point, and it was hard for me to understand.
Brian, that's the 28 million from last year and
And
14 more
14 more.
million for this year.
Correct.
And if you do those 2 years in a row, 28 plus 28 plus 14, there's your $70 million over a 2-year period.
Over a 2-year period. And the extra 14 is because we are a property wealthy district. Property wealthy districts are taking a higher percentage of the state's cut in the second year of the biennium, and the most property poor districts, as a general term, are going to be getting a portion of their 11-12 cut back. They'll get some of their funding returned, and the property rich districts are taking on the extra share.
Okay, I was looking at the 10 million and the 42, so really the 42 is is based on the total revenue.
Yes, 42 is based on.
I understand now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Okay.
Okay, not much has changed on school nutrition since we showed it to you in May. They are expected to go up in revenue about $2 million, about 6.3%. A lot of that is simply because there's going to be more mouths to feed. There's going to be an increase in free and reduced meal participation. Our free and reduced percentage is still on the rise. So the more that are on free and reduced, the more money we get from the federal government. And also the federal government we're anticipating about a 2% increase in their per meal reimbursement rate. We are also going to see a small increase in lunch prices on adults and on students who are not on free and reduced program. Those increases are mandated by federal law because there needs to be a certain disparity between the amount of money that the feds give us for the free and reduced and the amount that we charge. So you can see full price elementary and full price secondary lunches will be going up a nickel, as will adult meals, no changes to breakfast. Their expenditures will be pretty much even, which is interesting. But again, if you look at the capital and other, in the capital line, this year, School Nutrition Services did a lot of improvement projects to the kitchens and cafeterias in order to spend down some fund balance. By law, they were reaching their limit in terms of the maximum amount of fund balance they could have. Unfortunately, we're having a hard time bringing that fund balance down because we're forced to keep doing meal price increases. So our revenue keeps going up and up and up, but yet we have to bring down our fund balance. So in 11-12, they did over $1 million worth of improvement projects, which helped bring down their fund balance below 3 months. So there's going to be things that are increasing, but it's going to be offset by decreases by not needing to do those capital improvements. You'll see a little bit of increase in the function food service, mainly because even the capital projects were still in the function called food services. So they're going to have additional staff. They're going to give the same 2% pay raise that the general fund is giving. Increased health insurance costs, the district share, just as the general fund will. There's going to be a little bit change in food prices, but again, they're going to lose over $1 million in capital improvements. It pretty much nets out to a zero change in expenditures. So in total, they brought down their fund balance this year. You can see a net reduction to fund balance of about $1.9 million, and we're projecting them to stay pretty much break even for next year and staying at about 2.7 months worth of fund balance, staying underneath that federal limitation. So and that is all I have on school nutrition, unless there are any questions, and I'll move on to debt service. Figured that was pretty easy. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Wyatt, sorry.
Just for clarification, if I understand correctly, the nutrition budget is self-supporting?
Completely, it is supported.
So it's not supported by any state fund. However, they do have the free and reduced lunch federal program that participates.
Correct. It is funded through charges to students, charges to adults, through the school lunch program, through the federal school lunch program. It is not a state program. Right. It is not affected by the foundation school program cuts made by the legislature, but nor is it supported by any local property tax dollars.
Right. That's the point I wanted to.
So it is.
I wanted to make sure I was correct in my assessment.
You are correct.
Of that. There's no tax money from the local or the state involved in the nutrition.
That is correct. So most of the state funding is through sales tax, so no state sales tax dollars flow back down to the district to support school nutrition. No local property tax dollars go to support school nutrition.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any more questions? Nope. All right.
Okay. Moving right along. The one thing I can tell you about the debt service fund budget that we're asking you to adopt tonight is that I'm going to change it. We are in the process, and you'll see items on the second agenda relating to the bond order, When we get final pricing and we've determined what all is going to be involved in the refunding, it is going to change very slightly our debt service budget for next year. So expect that on August 13th, when we go to adopt the tax rate, that I will also bring you a slight tweak to these numbers based on whatever's the final pricing numbers of the bond issue. This is 98, 99% correct, but we will tweak it somewhat before we adopt the tax rate.
But it's not going to increase our tax rate of what you're going to be presenting
Correct.
later, right?
It will.
Just to clarify.
So if you're tweaking it, we're adopting it tonight?
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
yes,
The
you,
debt service fund.
you will adopt it tonight, because by law, you have to adopt a debt service fund budget. But I'm just telling you that budget amendment number 1 for the debt service fund
Okay,
will
so
be
we'll get
August
an
13th.
amendment
Yes, ma'am.
shortly thereafter.
Yes, ma'am. For this budget, it is estimated the tax rate is going to increase 1.75 cents on the debt service side. It is currently at 36.29 cents. It's going to go up to 38.04 cents. Now, if for some reason everything that we've seen from Dr. Gavusi, from Bexar County, is coming out wrong, and our property values come out on the certified values on July 25th much lower than what we're projecting, then we still need to have enough tax money to pay our debt obligations. The public notice that went into the newspaper on June 11th said that the maximum tax rate that the district can levy without doing another public notice and another public meeting is 39.5 cents. So there's a little wiggle room there. I'm anticipating it'll be 38 cents. But just to let you know that if something happens on August 13th, we will come to you and say certified values, and you have to approve the certified values, and I have to send a form back to the county. The certified values came in at X. The bonds came in at X. And so based on those certified values, we may need to have a tax rate slightly higher than 38.04 cents in order to meet our obligations. For the last 4 or 5 years, this hasn't been an issue because we've been using up our fund balance. There's not that much fund balance left to use. So we need to make sure that our taxes coming in are adequate to pay our debt requirements. I do, like I said, it's my estimate right now that the 38 cents is right. I talked to Mark Seal earlier today. He was crunching some numbers with the new bonds, and he came out with 38.09. So, I mean, we're right there in the ballpark, but you are not adopting the tax rate tonight. You're only adopting the budget. Now, you have to adopt a tax rate on August 13th that will produce enough revenue to cover our debt payments.
So, just to clarify, like Mr. White said, the $1.04 where we're at now, is that the tax rate you're talking about?
No, ma'am. That is the M&O tax rate, and it's going to be
This is the
$1.04 and
INS
$1
tax
for a
rate.
dime for it. This is just the INS tax
Okay.
rate, which is
Just
currently
checking.
36.29 cents.
Right,
We are anticipating that that rate is going to go to 38.04 cents.
right,
Still at $1.04 on M&O.
okay,
And unless the legislature changes something, or we go out for a TRE, it's going to be at $1.04 forever. The INS side,
right.
and
Just clarify.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that will raise, that'll raise our revenue enough to cover the change in our debt payments for next year. But the good news is, we told the taxpayers it would go up as much as 5 cents next year, and we're only looking at going up about 1.75 cents. We've delayed issuing the bonds, and now, I mean, again, interest rates just hit yet another low. So we're in a good time to be working out these documents and getting these things priced. So it stands a chance that we're going to be fine with the 1.75% increase. Expenditures are going up 2.5. Again, this is one of those silly things where within our budget year, expenditures are only going up 2.5 million. The tax rate that you adopt has to be enough money to cover through December of 13. It's as if we were still on an August fiscal year, and we have to cover all the August payments with the tax rate you're going to adopt this August. So, so the amount of money that we need to cover all of our bond payments through next August is different than the fiscal year budget. So it's worked the last 5 years. I'd hate to say, just trust me, but just trust me. Or actually 7 years we've been on this new fiscal year. And that is all the question, or all the items that I had to present. If there are any questions on debt service or going back to general or school nutrition, otherwise we are done with the budget process for the year.
Does anyone have questions? Nope. Mr. White?
Now, Madam Chair, it's also at this time where if there's anyone from the public that wanted to speak on, okay.
Thank you, Mr. White, for keeping us on track. Next item.
B, this time is provided for citizens to address the board on the proposed budget. Each person who signs up shall be allowed to address the board one time for no more than 3 minutes. Therefore, a presentation involving more than one person is not permitted during this time.
And I don't believe we had anyone sign up, is that correct? All right. I'm sorry? Would anyone like to speak regarding the budget? Going once, going twice. All right, next item.
4, adjournment.
This meeting is a, oh, hold on, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
It's adoption.
Sorry. 3, new business for possible board action. A, adoption of the 2012-2013 official budget. I'm ready to get out of here.
Whew. It's because we
This
have
is
2
depressing.
meetings. Well, we really have like 4 meetings tonight, so it's kind of confusing.
We don't
Okay.
like $70 million cuts.
Do I have a motion to approve the 2012-2013 budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Grona and Mr. White. I have a motion and a second. Is there any other questions? Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, next item.
Now adjournment for this one. Okay.
Okay, we are adjourned for this particular budget adoption meeting. It is 6 p.m. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. And 551.074, to discuss personnel or hear complaints against personnel. And it's still 6 o'clock, but we can say 6:01 if that helps the record. We can sit out here another 20 seconds. Okay. All right. Well, yes, we will be back.
Okay, go ahead. I didn't bring nothing. This is not going to take long. I don't think. How you guys? The guys in the front row are the ones that deal with that guns and stuff from Wall Street. I mean, that's the best way we can do it. You know, not really.
Okay.
But that's the best way for me to tell you what they do.
Okay.
Yeah, they deal with money. And advise our people about what the forecast is. And all that. Good people. It's amazing. Page 3 of how many? Give her that back. Oh, they, oh. Okay, let me see. This agenda is with personnel and then reconvene.
The board will now reconvene in open session. Next item.
The time is.
Oh, sorry,
7,
time,
what do
thank
have?
you, 7:12.
Thank you. 4, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code, Section 551.072. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments.
Do I have a motion regarding personnel?
Move to approve personnel as presented in executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second. Go ahead.
Ms. Grona? I have a motion and a second. There can be no discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
2, principal of Roosevelt High School.
Do I have a motion to approve the principal of Roosevelt High School?
I move that we approve the principal of Roosevelt High School. Madam Chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. There can be no discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
3, principal of Academy of Creative Education.
Do I have a motion to approve?
We have no action.
Oh, we
So
have
no
no
action.
action on that one. Thank you.
Mhm.
Next item.
4, principal of Oak Grove Elementary.
Do I have a motion to approve the principal of Oak Grove Elementary?
So move.
I do have a second.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Mr. White and Ms. Grona. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Gottardy, do you have introductions?
I have 2 introductions, and of course, we'll bring these back to you on July the 9th for formal introductions, but the new principal of Roosevelt High School is Mr. Melvin Eckert, and the new principal at Oak Grove Elementary School is Mr. Harold Massey. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Congratulations. Could we, Marie, could we just make a note that, to put an item on the agenda for introductions so that we always remember to do that? Okay, thank you. Next item.
B, possible action on the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property.
No action there. Next item.
C, possible action regarding consultation with board's attorney.
No action there. Next item.
5, new business for possible board action. A, board policy. 1, possible action regarding proposed board policy update 94, first reading.
Dr. Gottardy.
We're bringing to you this evening update 94 from the TASB Policy Service. Update 94 is referencing the new food allergy issues. If there are no questions, we'll bring it back to you at the July 9th board meeting for second and final reading.
Okay, so we don't have any action on this item.
We do not.
Okay.
Well, we're approving first
Yeah.
reading.
We are
Sorry,
approving
approving
first-
first
okay.
reading.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve first reading on update 94
All right.
as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Grona. I have a motion by Mr. White, a second by Ms. Grona. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
B, human resources. 1, possible action regarding leave for advanced academic preparation.
Dr. Scheffler.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy. We have, as it says, recommendation to approve the applicant for a 1-year unpaid leave of absence for advanced academic prep, and Dr. Gottardy is making that recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the leave for advanced academic preparation as presented.
Did you mean unpaid leave? Just make sure you get that word in there.
Yes. I'm looking at the agenda, yes, unpaid leave.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
C, Business Services. One, possible action regarding Budget Amendment 6.
Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests, we bring to you Budget Amendment 6. This is to tie in all the different budget amendments that we made. This is what we have to do before the end of the fiscal year. If there's any questions in detail, I have Brian Moy here to answer any questions.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve Budget 6, Amendment number 6 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. White. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Grona. Is there any discussion, any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
2, possible action regarding fund balance commitments.
Again, Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, ma'am. This is for fund balance commitments. This is per GASB 54. It requires us to start allocating and looking at our fund balances and our special revenue funds, and it's just a matter of aligning it. I've got Brian Moy here to answer any questions. I almost said my award.
For the GASB 54, are there any, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we pass the action regarding the fund balance commitments as presented. If I understand, it was in the presentation that was made earlier, right?
No, sir. This has to just allocate the different funds as far as restricting certain funds.
Oh, okay.
It's more of accounting.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We're just restricting them to uses. Yes.
Okay, well, I'll start my motion.
All right.
I move that we pass the action regarding the fund balance commitments.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Wheat. I didn't hear you.
Didn't
down,
mean to
way
speak
down
low.
here. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. White, a second by Mr. Wheat. Is there any questions or discussion?
Well, I had my question answered
Yes, sir.
as I began to make the motion a while ago, so
Okay,
I understand that. Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
3, possible action regarding bond order.
Again, Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, ma'am. We bring to you tonight our draft of our bond order. It's pretty detailed. I have Mark Seal, our financial advisor here, and Jeff Kuhn, who's with Fulbright Jaworski. He's our bond counsel. If you turn to page 3, we have a change. We were looking at doing $245 million, but we're going to try to do some more refunding, so we want to put the max at $255 million.
Okay.
We're looking at going to market around July 17th, and on July 18th, we'll do our bond proceed agreement, and then try to close everything by the August 13th meeting. So that's our timeline. We brought you a syndicate of 20 that we approved underwriters, and we're going to be selecting, I think, 1 senior and 5 that will be working as the co-managers.
Since the meeting's kind of early, I think we should just read the whole thing. Just teasing. Not really. All right, do I have a motion regarding the bond order?
And they have to make that
I
amendment.
move that we accept the bond order as presented
Second.
With amending.
with the amendment.
Page 3.
And the amendment
Page
is from 245 million to 255 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Page 3.
Page 3.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Are there any comments, questions?
I do have one question.
Okay.
The per annum interest rate shall not exceed a rate greater than 7% per annum. Would you care to elaborate on that
Yeah,
exorbitant?
we wouldn't want Mark to come down
that
without saying
exorbitant
something.
amount, 7%?
Yes, ma'am. For the record, my name's Mark Seal with Emmy Allison and Company. This is the 7% annum is a not to exceed, and that is the coupon on the bond. A lot of the bonds today are sold at a premium, so you will see like a 5% coupon where the yield might only be like 3.3%. 7% is just a number that we normally use in these documents, but we should not have anything higher than a 5% coupon on these bonds, I would suspect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bresnahan. All right, I still have a motion and a second. Or is there any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
4, possible action regarding $50,000 purchases.
Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, ma'am. I have David Bohannon, our Executive Director of Procurement, to talk about this next item.
All right.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests, back in May of this year, we placed a purchase order for 5 police vehicles, and we placed it with HoustonGalveston Area CoOp, which is the co-op we normally buy all of our buses and vehicles with. And it was under the assumption that in July, we bring to you all the over 50,000 purchases we think that we will do for the year. And typically, we bring whole co-ops because we never know exactly which vendor we're going to use out of the co-op. And so we thought we had brought the HoustonGalveston Area CoOp. In preparation for our July board meeting, it was discovered that we did not bring the HoustonGalveston Area CoOp. We actually, on the purchases for that co-op, we brought individual vendors. So what we are doing tonight is asking you to ratify and make this purchase legal according to CH Local. And that's what we're coming to you tonight to do.
Heaven forbid.
And each one of the cars is going to cost $50,000?
No. I have that total for you. They each cost $26,753.
We forget.
I'm
Not-
like, where
not
is
too
the
bad.
chief sweating this one, Please let me have my cars.
All right, do I have a motion regarding the police vehicles?
I move that we recommend ratify the purchase of 5 police vehicles.
Do I have a second?
From the
Okay.
co-op. It has to be stated about the Houston
Oh, about the
co-op.
co-op? Do we need to state the co-op for the record?
I was just reading the motion.
Okay.
off the deal,
It's in the attachment,
Yeah.
per
Right.
the attachment.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next item.
6, adjournment.
Woo-hoo.
Time is 7:23.
Get to that.
I'm still trying to get through my agenda.
I was trying to